All right, everyone, we are going to get started. If you have a friend hanging out, oh, I love that energy, yes. But if you have a friend that's outside by the bar area, you want to grab them, please feel free to do that. And here we go. Welcome to an afternoon of socialism and anime. I think this is the first something like this is ever happening, so it's pretty cool that you're all here to witness this. When speaking with Ian Huntley's team about these opening remarks, I naturally thought to thank them, the venue, and volunteers first. Then thank all of you. But it occurred to me that all of you here, all of you hopefully anime fans, but wonderful anime fans, you are the people that are most important here. You are the people who Ian Huntley will be serving every day as our next assemblyman of District 56. And I want you all to realize just how important it is that you are actually here today. So with that, thank everyone that's in this room. Thank you to the Ian Huntley team. Thank you to Wonderville, our venue partner, and our amazing volunteers. Now, let's get to know each other a little bit better. Raise your hand if you are an anime fan, and keep them up. Raise your hand if you're from New York. Like, keep your hands up, or raise your hand if you're from New York. Okay, now keep your hands up if you're from Brooklyn. Okay, now it's my turn to get to know, you guys are now gonna get to know me a little bit better. My name is Eileen Level, and I am a Brooklynite. I am the founder of Anitomo, one of the largest free anime conventions in the country. Anitomo is a third space that elevates historically underserved and underestimated voices through manga, anime, and gaming. I love that. I love what I do, truly, and we do so much more. Anitomo directly translates to anime friends, anime tomodachi. And so hopefully everybody here makes a new friend. But at the helm, it's an inclusive cross-cultural experience that recognizes that everyone deserves the right and the freedom to explore their dreams and to have fun doing it alongside new friends. Does that ring a bell to anybody? Just call out an anime character that you think represents that. Just call it out. Thank you. Okay, thank you, you win. Okay, but I can think of a number of other anime fans that do that, but Monkey D. Luffy stands out, and that is, if you're not familiar, it is the protagonist from one of the most popular anime of all time, One Piece. So on that note, how many of you are One Piece fans? Woo! All right, so I imagine you are all familiar that in 2025, the global symbol for rebellion against corruption and oppressive government became Luffy's Jolly Roger, also known as the Straw Hat's pirate flag. It has been now all over the world, seen in Indonesia, Nepal, the Philippines, France, and most recently on US soil in Minneapolis. And with that said, today's headline reads, "A man died in Minneapolis after being shot by US immigration agents." But he was not just a man, he was a US citizen. And it has got to stop. Needless, just unbelievable, unnecessary deaths that are happening across the country. And so with that being said, especially being in Brooklyn, this is like a hub for immigrants, culturally diverse people. We just want to take a moment of silence to respect him and all the people that have died in this time. So just a moment of silence. And we never expected to start this event or for it to be on a moment of sadness, but throughout this entire event, we are going to be talking about equality. We are going to be talking about our freedom and our rights. So it's going to be a world of emotions here today, but thank you for that. So, with what's happening today, the Straw Hat flag, all of it signifies a shared frustration and around traditional politics, a demand for systemic change against perceived injustices and inequality. Ian Huntley is navigating similar torrent waters in pursuit of quality life for everyone, from education to housing, immigration, and everything in between. I'm personally so happy to be here with all of you in 2026 to discuss what equality looks like. And for that reason, it is such an honor to have Annie Tomo supporting this event. So for the next 60 minutes, you will be privy to a robust panel featuring Christian Divyne, an actor, comedian, and content creator, Gita Jackson, an award-winning writer and co-founder of the independent media Aftermath, and the future Assemblyman of District 56, Ian Huntley, followed by what I know will be a lively Q&A and mixer. So on that note, let's get started with our featured guest, who will be talking about intriguing, timely political topics through the unique lens of anime. Now, I would like you all to help me welcome our first presenter, Christian Divyne, here to speak to you about Full Metal Alchemist from a fantastical POV of restorative justice.
Thank you. Shout out. Can y'all hear me? Word. Okay. So basically, this is going to be a presentation about restorative justice and why you kind of have to watch Full Metal Alchemist if you have not. Now, before I get into this, raise your hands if you've already watched Full Metal Alchemist. Yeah, most of us. All right, cool. And before I also get into this presentation, I want to say there are crazy spoilers in this presentation, not just for Full Metal Alchemist, but for Chainsaw Man, for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you've watched everything that's out in the anime, I'm not doing any manga spoilers. So it's only, I made sure that like nothing that hasn't been animated is not in this, okay? But it's gonna be, warning, spoilers. All right, so what are the differences between restorative and transformative justice? So restorative justice sort of looks at justice from a personal lens, like an individual, like person who committed a crime to the person who was the victim of that crime and restoring it through them. You think about things, what was the example I listed there? Like truth and reconciliation, right? Where people are having to adjust to the things that they've done, admit to them, own up to them, and then find what for the victim is justice for them. And transformative justice is something like prison abolition, where you're looking at it through an entire lens, the system itself that then like creates these things, right? That prisons are, there's like an industry behind it, right? People are militarized, people are put into boxes, we over-police certain communities, right? So what does that look like in anime? Now, I'm a huge shonen head. There's a lot of panels in this. There's really only, when you watch shonen, two options. It's either that you fucking die, if you do something bad, or you get talk no jutsu'd and we act like nothing happens. So it's either you die an absolutely horrific death for being a terrible, terrible person where you get broken up by hands, or you commit heinous atrocities and you get to dance with the crew afterwards. So once again, either you, wait, sorry, one moment. Either you die a very sad and horrific death, or you commit heinous atrocities and you come back and you're just a cool dude who hangs out even though you used to torture kids. But what if there was a little bit of depth? And this is where like Full Metal Alchemist comes in. If you haven't watched it, it's sort of a story about this military state and what goes on in it. And where it's different in a lot of these ways is that it offers a like full picture of like state and like complicity in state violence. It offers a solution after the big bad. It's not just that they end the big bad and then the story ends there. It offers a picture of what life would look like after that. No one gets, I mean, there's a lot of talk no jutsu, but no one gets to just like, like I used to commit heinous crimes and now everything's good. Like that doesn't happen. The victims are given agency, and despite being written specifically about the Ainu people, it is a story that will sound and resonate in a lot of ways and feels like it's applicable to conflicts around the world. So if you don't know anything about the Ainu people, they were an indigenous minority in like northern Japan who were basically primarily eradicated. After World War II, the Japanese people decided they wanted they wanted an ethno state, right? And so they started like separating their communities, not allowing them to speak their language. I think in the 60s, there were only 300 speakers of the Ainu language. Now that language is near gone. And the author of Full Metal Alchemist is a descendant of the Ainu people. And so when you look at the conflict that exists in Full Metal Alchemist, basically there is a smaller place called Ishval, right? If you don't know, this is just some context, general context, a place called Ishval in which they practice a different religion, and there is conflict going on. The government kills a child, and then like a lot of violence erupts because of that, and then they order an extermination, even to the point at which you can see a panel here where the leader of the Ishvalan people, the religious leader, goes up and decides to offer his life and says we completely surrender, and they still choose to eradicate them anyway. This was written about the Ainu people, but at the time it felt applicable to the Iraq War, and I'm sure if you are thinking of Palestine or things that are happening right now, it still feels relevant for today for a manga that was written 20 years ago. And so the first thing that you really have to pay attention to is Scar's narrative. So when you first meet him, you really aren't up to date in what's happening in the Israeli war. You just know there's a crazy guy who is presented as a religious extremist and is explicitly considered a terrorist who's targeting state alchemists who, at the point in the story that you're given this, are just cool people who do magic. That's all you know about them. You're like 5 episodes in, you don't know why this random like religious extremist wants to kill all the cool people who do magic. But as you go on, you get to really like learn the in-depth of like he saw his people be eradicated. He views these people who are basically equivalent of like a lot of anime is about nukes, just calling it. So like there's always gonna be someone like if you know Hunter x Hunter, even if you think about that, like it's like there's always a metaphor in there for like massive weapons. The state alchemists are the powerful state weapons, and this particular panel really gets to me. I have to read it because it doesn't. His purpose isn't simply to like give up, right? You read, we must endure. And do not he says, are you saying that we should forgive us for what the military has done? He says, do not misunderstand me. Enduring and forgiving are 2 different things. You must not forgive the cruelty of this world. It is our duty as human beings to be angry at injustice, but we must also endure because someone must sever this chain of hatred. So you're first presented as this terrorist character, and you realize that like that is just a portrayal and an issue of the narrative you're being given as the reader, as someone who's like in the oppressor's seat because you're watching it from the POV of the military state. And so then, not only does Full Metal Alchemist do that, oh, dude, it's so chopped. But these would be panels. These are, in theory, panels in which they talk about Colonel Mustang, who is one of our main heroes, who is also a war criminal, admittedly a war criminal. His plan explicitly in his gaining of power is that they will give up the state alchemy program, essentially relinquishing the state's weapons, and that they would then go through trials about what happened in Israel. And our main character, Edward Elric, is shocked here because he's saying, well, if you're going to do that, then all of you will have to be tried as war criminals. And Hawkeye goes, yeah, that's the plan. Like we have to relinquish all of our power, and we will be tried as war criminals, and we will have to give up what we hold. And in the end of Full Metal Alchemist, basically he gets the opportunity to, for one, restore his nation to the place that it was. The people who were living in slums and in hiding because they were supposed to be eradicated end up helping save the day. He goes back with old boy who was trying to fix the system from the inside. That is my one critique of this, is that it requires a lot on it's not enough black. There's a lot of black people here, but there's certain words So old boy trying to fix the system from the inside. He's also mixed, and so it's like this whole narrative where I'm like, all right, we've written a weird thing here, but shout out to old boy. And also the idea that like Colonel Mustang, who is like in the military and did the war crimes, is also a guy who's like, yeah, I'm gonna give up all my power in the real world, but you get this entire perspective. So you kind of like, it is the most in-depth anime you can watch about this. I highly recommend it if you've never read or watched it. It offers this portrayal where the war criminals will relinquish their power. They will end the military-industrial context. The native people will get their lands back, and oppressive nations are no longer allowed to stock massive weapons. So shout out to Full Metal Alchemist. This is just, you should read or watch Full Metal Alchemist. Thanks. Where's the host? Shout out. I'll just wait here until the host comes back. I can like beatbox or. Oh, word. All right. Shout out. I heard about him originally when we did the Brokers Fees Act back in 2023. You know him. Shout out to Chiose. Come on up here.
Thank you so much, Christian. That was an amazing presentation. I was never able to finish Full Metal Alchemist, but now I don't have to. I'm New York City Council member Chiose. I represent Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights in the City Council. I'm also here in support of Ian Huntley for State Assembly. I think I might age myself a little bit with what some of my favorite animes are, but my dad actually put me onto anime. We grew up watching Akira, Yu Yu Hakusho, And obviously this is so like cliche, but Naruto was obviously my favorite. And if I were to make, a connection between Naruto and what we're currently going through right now, I would say that the oligarchy is most certainly the Akatsuki. A secret, not really that secret, but a squad of evil villains that are, aiming to dismantle everything that we care about. I'm happy to be here in support of this campaign. If you are here and you have not donated yet, please send your good money or your volunteer power in making sure that we get Ian elected. We have an opportunity this year to really change the tides in leadership in Bed-Stuy. We are currently under the regime of a state assembly member who is very regressive to many of the things that will make this city as affordable as it could possibly be. And we need a champion for the working class, and I know that that is Ian Huntley. So there is going to be a lot of money that's going to be spent on this race. You'll be hearing about Solidarity PAC, which is the state's version of APAC. There'll be different real estate PACs that will funnel their money into Stephanie's campaign under the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries, and we're not going to let them win. We have some nerd power on our side. We're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we get him elected, as well as an enormous slate of working class champions that are running across the city. So thank you so much for having me here today. I hope everyone's staying warm. I'm going to an ICE protest in the city. As you know, a white man was actually murdered in Minnesota, and I'm just saying that because they're killing white men. It's not funny, but they're killing white American men. And I've often said that, ICE is coming after all of us. They're not just coming after immigrants. They're not just coming after illegal immigrants. They're being used as a police arm of this fascist government to wreak havoc on each and every single one of us. So stay woke, stay black, to those of you in this room. And stand up in any way that you can. And one of those ways is making sure that we get Ian elected. Thank you very much. Who do I pass this off to?
Another shout out and an applause for Councilmember Ose. Ose, what's your favorite anime?
I do have an Akira poster in my room. I think it's a
Respect.
amazing.
Respect.
Does that count as an anime?
Yes, that is one. That is the one. That is the one. Thank you.
Akira for sure. And there's a lot of political undertones in that whole.
100%. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to Christian, our first presenter. Thank you very much. All right. We are all here to support Ian and this incredibly important race. But in order to do that, in order to win, we need berries, a.k.a. moolah, a.k.a. money. So in order to do that, I want you all to do a favor for me. I'm not going to put the pressure on, but let's just take our phones off and let's just pretend, and let's point the phone towards the screen. So I can feel like we're all just going to do something, either canvas or we're going to, give some money towards this important campaign. Because our opponent, in 2024, raised over $1 million from the Walton Charter Schools, APAC Junior, and still only won by 500 votes. The only way we can stop them from buying the election again is to raise money from folks like you. So please give a scan to the QR codes, and let's help a democratic socialist win this event in Bed-Stuy.
That's right.
All right, and with that, now helping you welcome Gita Jackson, speaking to you about Shoujo as an underappreciated genre, from Sailor Moon to Nana, and how gender and class play an all too familiar role in women's worlds.
Hello, I'm Gita. Hi, I'm Gita. I'm from, as mentioned, I'm the co-founder of Aftermath.site, which is an independent media organization that reports on news, video games, anime. We write a lot about anime, actually, and just internet culture and general nerd shit. It is the honor of a lifetime to stand in front of you today to talk about my favorite thing in the world, shoujo. I am the big shoujo head here. That's who I am. The very first anime I ever saw was Sailor Moon, and it was all like I was consigned to hell at that exact moment. It is shoujo to me is if shonen gives you a philosophical basis for your ideology, and what we just saw in Christian's slides about Fullmetal Alchemist, which is one of my favorite animes of all time. Shoujo is all about why you stand up and fight. It is a genre that is centered around emotions and empathy. And to me, being able to have an open and empathetic heart is the most important possible thing you could have as we stand together in solidarity against a fascist regime. So what is shoujo? Shoujo is Boys Over Flowers. Shoujo is, generally speaking, marketed towards girls. If shonen is for boys, shoujo is for girls. And there's like subgenres, there's josei, which is for slightly older girls and then the teenage market, but it is mostly stories, soap opera-esque stories. Like, think about like Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl would work perfectly as a shoujo, because it's all about people monologuing about their feelings and cheating on each other. So, like, it is, like the CW drama, it is maligned, like, for no reason, because it's great. It is a genre of feelings. It is all about the idea that feelings are important, and then feelings also exclusively drive the plot. There is action-oriented shoujo. The magical girl genre is often all about fighting and defending. But it is primarily what drives the plot are the characters' emotions and their relationships to each other. This is also true. It is like a sexist classification. I think that a lot of the things that are enjoyable about shoujo also show up in shonen and vice versa. I think some action-oriented shoujo is absolutely as good as all the shonen out there, but that's neither here nor there. But generally speaking, yes, it's the idea that these shows are about emotion, and they get targeted towards girls because girls are so emotional. It is also a place where queerness can be textual. There is a lot of implicit queerness in shonen, but it never becomes text with the same frequency as it does in shoujo. For example, Banana Fish is a crime drama set in 1970s New York. This is considered a shoujo manga and show. Why is that? It's because it's a boys' love show about two men falling for each other, and that emotional relationship is what drives the crime plot. So that becomes relegated for girls, even though women don't really show up in Banana Fish all that much. It's fantastic. Don't watch the AI dub has already been removed from Amazon, but they tried it with the gay show because they thought no one would care. It's not just boys' love, though, that is able to be textual. Gender fuckery and girl yuri and relationships between women are also textual in a way that they do not become textual in shonen. Sailor Moon, one of the most famous shoujo shows of all time, has a canonical on-the-page lesbian relationship, and that occurred in the 1990s in Japan. Some of the reason for this, it's not really for being pro-gay rights. It's about not wanting to have another man to fuck up the narrative of your long-running manga and deciding it's easier if it's with two girls. But, the result is that I was a child and being like, so those two women are in love and it's normal. And, well, I'm now a big queer weirdo. Speaking of Sailor Moon, Sailor Moon changed my life forever. I am the big-time Sailor Moon fan. So Sailor Moon is from this subgenre I mentioned that is about being a magical defender of other people. This is the most famous example of the magical girl genre. Usagi, the girl right here, she gets magical powers from a talking cat, which is my dream, and she is able to become a defender of girls and girlhood now for the rest of her life. I do think that Sailor Moon does give you the ideological basis you need to have become a feminist, or not just a feminist, a socialist. And I looked up the lyrics to the English theme song to support my case. And it's here's the things that Sailor Moon does. She will never turn her back on a friend. She is always there to defend. She is the one on whom we can depend. She is literally fighting for someone she doesn't know every single day of her life. The additional thing is that because these stories are about girls, they show you a lot of different ways that you can be a girl and still come together and still experience solidarity. So, for example, Sailor Moon right there and Sailor Mars, they don't get along when they first meet. They fight a lot. In the anime, they're after the same fuck-ass man. And they have a lot of conflict about that. But when it comes to people being exploited, they always set aside their differences and they always fight together. They all become best friends through the act of solidarity. They understand it doesn't matter what their feelings are about each other when there is a bigger enemy to fight. And the enemies in Sailor Moon, they go after the exploited. One thing I really like about Sailor Moon also is that Usagi, her power comes specifically from the thing that causes shoujo to be considered shoujo. It is from her emotions. She's always being described as a big crybaby, and it's a criticism she receives several times, especially in the first season. What she learns is that her destiny is to become the queen of a utopian future Tokyo, the Silver Millennium. And in order to enact this, she needs to find the Silver Millennium Crystal. Sorry for spoilers for the first season of Sailor Moon, but at the end of that season, she finally discovers where the Silver Millennium Crystal exists. It comes from her tears for the pain that her comrades have gone under. That becomes the crystal, and it brings her deceased colleagues back to life. The intensity of the emotion she feels for them is where her power comes from. It's where all of your power comes from, actually. I'm like, no, I'm gonna cry thinking about Minneapolis today, but it's my ability to empathize with those people that gives me my strengths and gives me the power to stand up and fight for what I believe is right. The villains of Sailor Moon are also very interesting. It's not consistently true, but I wanted to give some mention. The villains of Sailor Moon are extractive, right? They are trying to take energy from normal people, and they do that by preying on symbols of capitalist success, like jewels, like makeup, like going to the special fancy cram school. The show, it does not judge people for being suckered in by those markers, but they always do frame it as exploitation. This is a show that was not intended to be socialist, I'm going to be very clear. It's not like Naoko Takeuchi, who is the creator of Sailor Moon, did all of this on purpose, but she did seed these things into it because women are consistently depicted as an oppressed underclass. Even if it's not explicitly feminist, we always see that Usagi is saying, I need to protect young girls from being exploited by the world around them. And that was also like a deeply radical thing for me to hear as a kid. Let's see. Oh, is this... What I want to say is this. When Bernie Sanders says, are you willing to fight for that person that you don't know as much as you would fight for yourself? This is how Usagi would respond. Yes, she is your champion. She is a Sailor Scout of love and justice. And so she is here to be an agent of justice. And that means standing up for the downtrodden. So shoujo is, let's see what's on this next slide. Shoujo is also a genre that primarily is about love and romance. And that, in order to make romantic plots sing, I think we've all seen with Heated Rivalry's popularity, there needs to be like conflict between those characters that gets resolved in order to bring them together. I think the biggest conflict that is a driver of romantic plots in shoujo is conflict between class. We can see this quite easily with Ouran High School Host Club, which is one of the greatest shows of all time also. I'm so sorry to tell you that the dub has a sex predator in it, but it does. But don't watch the dub. Just don't watch the dub. Just don't do it. Ouran High School Host Club is an incredible show that is literally and very explicitly about class conflict. This character is a girl, and she's just a tomboyish girl. She wanders into a club room one day and is trying to figure out what the fuck all these pretty boys are doing. She's ostracized at her rich prep school because she's on a scholarship, and she knocks over a vase, breaking it. It is worth a lot of money, more money than she could possibly repay. So she cross-dresses as a boy to be a host to have tea parties with all the little rich girls at this school. It becomes a romantic conflict between these two characters. Really the biggest fantasy in Ouran High School Host Club is that rich people can be fun and not annoying. But it is the idea that this person needs to get his shit checked because he does not understand the power his wealth gives him is the underlying thing that drives this romantic plotline. The last aspect of shoujo that I wanted to talk about here was the work of Ayazawa. I think technically this is classified as josei because it's intended for a more mature audience, but I just think it is important to talk about, in particular, these two specific love stories. They are love stories where class is very, very, very important to the characters. It informs everything that goes through in their life. Paradise Kiss is about these two characters. She goes to an elite prep school, comes from a rich family, has her entire life laid out for her, but she feels uncertain about following through with that future, being only a teenager and not having experienced much life. So she runs into, by accident, two fashion students that want her to be a model for this designer, a bisexual man with blue hair. Someone should have told her that wasn't gonna work out. But George and her, they fall deeply in love, and they know it might not work out forever, but the things they learn about their two different kinds of struggle, what it's like to be a part of a specific, underclass of person. They are all freaky artists, working on their fabulous gowns. That informs the rest of her life forever. And I cry every time I read this. It's so beautiful. Nana, similarly, is about two girls named Nana. This Nana in the bottom, she comes from a suburb. She is fairly sheltered. She is moving to Tokyo after a romance didn't work out, and she meets this other Nana on the train. This other Nana is in a punk rock band called the Black Stones, and they're great, and I love them. And she experiences the world in a really different way from this other Nana. What they find when they move into each other into apartment 777 is that it doesn't really matter where they came from. They love each other. They love each other deeply as people, even after they stop being friends through a series of incredibly heartbreaking circumstances. They still, in their minds, narrate their lives as if they are writing a letter to the other Nana. I am playing for time for 1 second. No, I think that reading these specific stories from Ayazawa, they show you how your class shapes you as a person. And it shows you how coming from a more privileged class can make it really difficult for you to understand what a normal person around you experiences on their day-to-day life. I like how much she does it with empathy. She never portrays Hachiko. They call her Hachiko because she's like a puppy. She never portrays her as being wrong for having the upbringing that she has. But every time she experiences a moment of deep empathy for the other Nana, that is a moment of victory for the comic. When she understands why Nana is so devoted to art that she would give up basically everything else in her life for it, it hits, man. It absolutely hits. The next slide is about one thing that I think is also really important about shoujo is that the best shonen is written and drawn by people who love shoujo. I was thinking specifically when we're making this slide about Berserk. Miura has said more than once that in developing the Band of Hawk arc in Berserk, which is before the world really goes to hell in Berserk, there's just like a soap opera arc, essentially, about the Band of Hawk, a band of mercenaries who come together and are fighting under Griffith. And he said that in order to develop the Band of Hawk, he read as much shoujo as he could possibly get his hands on. Because everything that drives all of the action is felt more deeply if we understand these people's emotions. I think the way that shonen can introduce you to ideology through action is really important, but I think it becomes more interesting when we understand how people feel about the things that they're doing. That's true. And another incredible example of this is the smash hit anime Dan, who is it's fantastic. The manga is also fucking incredible. But it's a shonen show, but the main sort of driver of the plot is this will they, won't they romance that is so shoujo coded. And it's shoujo coded not just because it is about these characters' emotions. We also dig deeply into her home life and her past and her grandmother being this exorcist and experience the world, the material reality that she lives in that created the kind of person that she is who believes in psychics. I think that you need shonen to show you why you fight, but you need shoujo because you need to know who you're fighting for. And please go home and watch Sailor Moon today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another round of applause for Gita. That was great. Well, thank you. Visit her website. What is your website?
Aftermath.site.
There we go. All right, much like the Sailor Scouts, the way we win is by working together. It sounds cheesy, but literally even us being all here together right now says a lot. So the first people, Okay, so last year, more than 100,000 people knocked on more than 3 million doors to make Zoran Mandani our mayor of New York City. Yeah, that deserves that. We need to keep that energy up, and we need to knock on many, many doors in Bed-Stuy to support Ian's campaign and to get this city to be more affordable, and I love this word, just simply more dignified. We deserve it. So please scan. The QR code's not here, but it will be up, and it's also behind Eric's back and a few others, which I love. But scan the QR codes that you're seeing because Ian's Field Day launch is on Saturday, February 7th. The first people to sign up will receive this incredible Huntley shirt, which I'm about to show you, made by Offside Collective and Mazza Sports, or Mazzy Sports. Oh my God. You guys are ready for the reveal? I don't feel the energy. Are you ready?
They look so good.
So in order to canvas, again, the QR codes are right over here. Please scan. Also, you can go to huntley.com to sign up to Canvas as well there. And if you don't live in Bed-Stuy, I know a few of you don't worry. There's an incredible slate of candidates running across the city to help us tax the rich win affordable housing, and deliver Zoran's agenda. The special election from Deanna Moreno is on February 3rd. So if you can make it to Astoria, we will need your help to do that. Finally, is the man of the hour here? Where is the man of the hour? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? In the shadows. 1 second. All right. So now, please help me to welcome, don't applaud yet because I want to introduce his presentation. Please help me welcome the man of the hour, future Assemblyman of District 56, Ian Huntley. He will be speaking about Uji Itadori from Jujutsu Kaisen as a shonen protagonist who embodies socialist values with a core motivation to help people. I'm very excited about this presentation. All right, now we can applaud.
How's everyone doing this afternoon? How's my otakus doing this afternoon? I just want to start this day and this moment with just a chant just to get this energy out, this visceral energy that I'm sure a lot of us are feeling in this moment with fucking fascists and killing people on the streets. And so I just want to get this chant going. And when I say, what do we want? You guys are going to say ice out now, right? So what do we want?
Ice out now!
What do we want?
Ice out now!
What do we want?
Ice out now!
That's right. Get those fuckers out. So now that I got this out, hopefully you don't kill me when I hit you with this red flash right now. That Yuji Itadori is the protagonist that we need, the most socialist protagonist, in fact. And if you don't know, this is Jujutsu Kaisen. Who hasn't heard about this? For everyone who hasn't, I'm going to just tell you a little bit of basics, and you also need to watch it and catch up.
That's you, Charlie.
Yeah, yes. In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, people have negative emotions, and these negative emotions create cursed energy. Eventually, cursed energy takes the form of cursed spirits, basically like demons. And certain people are able to see them. These are jujutsu sorcerers, and they are conscripted into a high school called Jujutsu Kai, and their task is to hunt spirits. All right. And Jujutsu Kaisen is a shonen. If you don't know shonens are about strength and about the protagonist's pursuit of strength to, achieve a goal and win above all. And let's go through a few iconic shonen heroes. Oh yeah, very famous one, right? Very famous one right here. We got Luffy, rather. Sorry, I know. Don't kill me. I'm a little nervous up here. No. I'm just kidding. Luffy. I just want to see if y'all were listening. Luffy wants to be the king of pirates. Naruto. That's like my little brother and my children. They love Naruto, and Naruto wants to be the Hokage. And then you have Deku.
Yeah.
He wants to, be the top-rated hero in the world. And then we get to someone who's different. My guy, Yuji Itadori, the Pancare Fly one. This is pretty different. Eugene takes inspiration for his motivation from his grandfather. And this is an important driver that guides him throughout the story. And we're going to play a clip that shows that. Okay, sorry. There's one more slide. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Yuji, actually. At first, Yuji seems like a normal kid. But, he has a little bit funny attributes that you see early on. And he heights it up with a crazy situation. You know, he eats a mummified finger. Who hasn't ate a mummified finger before? Who amongst us? The people in Jiu-Jitsu High and Jiu-Jitsu Society decide that this is the moment that he needs to be executed. This is a no-no. And this is all because of the finger that he's ate. It's Sukuna's finger. And Sukuna, if you don't know, you're going to find out. Yeah.
He does have that shit on, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. He's a pink hair fly one. Yeah, he's got like almost like a Rick Owens like crop like situation going on. I got some pants like that. I get my Yuji on if I can. More Gojo, maybe flavor. All right.
You're a strong
Got some sound?
Try to help others. Save the people you can, even if it's only those closest to you. It's okay if you lose your way, and don't worry about whether they'll thank you or not. Just save as many as you can, even if you could only save one. When you die, you should be surrounded by people. Don't end up like me.
Pretty powerful. I mean, I think about that all the time, actually. Yuji doesn't even know about the world of jiu-jitsu. He's just thrown into this. Eats a finger and ends up in this crazy, crazy world. He's surrounded by, you know, other sorcerers, some of which are the geniuses of the society. And most of these people in the society, like these geniuses, is about living an isolated, solitary life because you just are so powerful that you are unmatched. You're a special grade.
野球は団体競技。それぞれに役割があるからね。でも呪術師はあくまで個人競技。他の術師との連携は大事でしょ。まあね。でも周りに味方が何人いようと、死ぬ時は一人だよ。
So, let's talk about some of these geniuses. My other favorite pink hair guy here, Sukuna. He's the strongest sorcerer in history. You know, he's problematic, which we'll get to. He's more than 1,000 years old. And in some ways, he's kind of like a tech billionaire. You know, he believes might makes right, and he does whatever he wants. And he feels he's unparalleled. Very Elon Musk energy, but way, way cooler. Elon can never see this guy. And then there's Geto. He starts out wanting to help people. You know, he's one of the leaders in Jiu-Jitsu High, friend of Gojo. But eventually, he comes to resent people, even calling them monkeys. I know, right? Just a little makes me feel a little kind of way, especially like things about Frieza. You know, there's a lot of undertones here with that, you know? You know, he perceives them as inherently less than sorcerers, and eventually he reaches a breaking point that turns him into a villain. And then there's everyone's favorite. Everybody loves Gojo. It should be a t-shirt, right? He is Yuji's teacher. He's a mentor of many of the outcasts of Jiu-Jitsu society. He takes on Megumi, another individual that's also kind of an outcast. And Gojo is himself outside of this, society in some ways. He just, he doesn't feel that conflicted by it enough to actually dismantle it. He just kind of exists outside of it. Kind of like, just a few other people, billionaires that sometimes like proclaim to care about what's going on, yet they let the systems that we exist in persist. Kind of reminds me of someone. You know, their characters are a lot closer to typical anime protagonists like that we just talked about. They are more typical of what you see in a shonen. You know, the ones that are unparalleled in their power and that they stand alone and that they always have the ability to act alone and save the day. You know, Goku. Not to drag my guy, I love Goku, but, you know. Yuji has a normal life outside of Jujutsu High and exists outside the rules. He doesn't think of himself as solitary, but ultimately he wants to collaborate, to be a comrade, to be cadre. Yuji gets along with people, which is how he's able to win over people that were antagonists that become protagonists and allies of his. Very typical of shonen, but it's not necessarily through a sheer will of force that he wins them over. It's actually his sense of love and compassion and brotherhood that actually draws these people in.
I don't understand anymore. What is a proper death?
I don't know what that is either. Even if all good people properly died in peace and all evil people were punished in death, the problem would be that most people in this world are neither all good nor all evil. Death is the final destination for all of us, but no one dies the same death. Guiding all of them to their proper end would be quite arduous. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I know you won't listen. You'll still try, won't you?
Shout out to Nanami, or Nanaman. Yeah. And he's also fly, too. He also puts that shit on. So, what is the answer to curses and barbarism in the neutrality of capitalism or Jujutsu society? Yuji is obsessed with the idea of people getting a proper death, even curses. Sometimes he doesn't know what that means, but we do. A proper death comes with a dignified life. And this is why the pink-haired fly one, Yuji Itadori, is the anime protagonist that's most likely to canvas. He believes in a new world despite all that horror in front of him. He believes in humanity. That's his driving force, love. He is an organizer. You know, I've heard that people say that organizers either do it out of love or anger. And Yuji displays the love. That's what he leads with. That's the guiding principle that, you know, in all that he faces in the adversities of Jujutsu society and the curses and everything that everyone throws at him, he still maintains that love. And, you know, he even shows it later on, some empathy and a final moment to his ultimate antagonist. But you got to get to that. I'm going to keep it anime only. And so, be like Yuji. Knock doors. Get that Huntley x Huntley shirt. Spread the good word of socialism in a transformative world that if we lead with love, that we can achieve. And fuck ICE. Fuck ICE, fuck ICE, fuck ICE. This is where we lead with the anger, because we can't continue to have elected officials that don't understand what the moment calls for, that are not there to meet the fight as necessary, that are not there on the streets with all of us when we're out there fighting. We need to elect people who are leaders who understand that and are going to deliver and fight for us, and fight to have a New York for all, and to have the socialist society that Yuji would appreciate.
Okay. Thank you, Ian! Okay, let's all bring this incredible energy home. We're just about ready for the Q&A. But one more reminder, if you want to donate, which I know all of you want to donate, or to sign up to Canvas, there are QR codes all throughout Wonderville. Eric, turn around. There are QR codes on people's shirts. And you can go to the huntleyxhuntley.com website to sign up to Canvas. So thank you again. And I hope you all have some questions. I'm going to kick it off. But if you do have a question, I think it's a pretty intimate space where you can call out your question, and I'll be able to repeat it and help out. Or we also have a mic up here if you're able to come close to the stage. So I'd like to introduce back to the stage Ian and Christian and Gita and me. Okay. Do you all? Thank you. One for you.
Oh, there we go.
I'll just pass it down.
Can I just say I love your bag, by the way? I was staring directly at you for my whole thing. I hope I didn't freak you out.
I almost want to put this on your lap.
Oh yeah, please.
It was perfect. It gave me something to look at. It was just like,
I've got
there's an
it.
adorable girl right in the front row.
You are the merch
This is the
table.
merch table here, guys. We're at the convention, and here he is. Boom. Sign up, please.
Okay, so the way that this is going to work is that I'm going to ask one question to each of you, and then I'm going to open it up. But I will stay with one presenter at a time. So I'm actually going to start with you, Christian. Why focus on Scar instead of the main character, who is a self-proclaimed dog of the military?
I do think it's like, I think me wanting to focus on Scar is because those are narratives that we see a lot perpetrated today, even if you think about people who are being targeted by ICE and how they're being called like domestic terrorists. And I think just like the way that it very carefully shows you how propaganda works and how we like take people who are consistently oppressed and make them out to be villains. I think that's why I think Scar is almost like, if you're gonna focus on the narrative, he is himself like a hero of this story. Yeah.
Is there anybody else who's a Full Metal Alchemist fan here? Okay. Does anybody have a question about the presentation that happened today about Full Metal Alchemist where you'd like to counter what Christian has said? And I'm feeling you over here.
Who wants to fight?
Yeah, you can come. I saw you. You're like, well, me over here. Or you want to add on to it?
It's not like a counter, I guess. It kind of has to do with like Yuji and his name's Edward, right? And the main character. They both kind of like multiple times in the series talk about themselves being cogs in the machine of like a broader system in there, but they both also kind of talk about the individual need to like love other characters and stuff like that, and like their own social circles. Like Ed, no matter what, even though he considers himself like a dog of the government, he's like, oh, I would fight for my family no matter what. I would fight for whatever no matter what. And I just wanted to kind of understand how you guys felt about that kind of contrasting idea of ideals, where it's like, oh, I need to exist in the society to help maybe a broader scope of people, and that requires me to like be in a place that's a little weird, but also I want to help like my friends individually. Like, how do you guys feel about that contrast in ideology?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting in both ways. Let me think. It's like, I think at some point, at least in Full Metal Alchemist, I think both Jujutsu Kaisen and Full Metal Alchemist do this, where they challenge those narratives. And for Full Metal Alchemist, it's that he realizes that his position isn't what it is. And I feel like I'm spoiling the whole damn thing. It's been out for 10, 15 years. He gives up all of his power, right? Ultimately, he realizes that like his place in this machine, that like the thing that he gave him all his power, the thing that got him there, that in order to really do or to like heal for what he's done, he has to give up all of his power. And so like that's the answer that's given there. I think I'm reading Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo right now, which is like the spin-off series, and I think that like if you've read it, I'm not going to say too much. There's a lot of like they answer it in a much more, I think, cynical way with Jujutsu Kaisen, especially when you think about the whole like what his one desire is and like how his life turns out. It's really sad. So I think they're kind of like reflections of each other, where Full Metal Alchemist is like, oh, you need to understand like the real way, this is a path forward, is to give up all your power. And I think Jujutsu Kaisen answers it, and it's like, well, this cycle persists.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep it, as Christian said, I'm gonna keep it anime only. So I think that there is a situation that like where Yuji faces all these things and he does understand and acknowledge that he is a cog, but I think that that acknowledgement doesn't take away from his motivation to still lead with love. And if we're gonna just dabble in what this not anime but manga context, it's shown later that he still holds on to that love, and even if though the cog is kind of like the machine that's running is falling apart, like literally, and so he takes on his own thing and still leads with that. And yes, it is kind of a cynical epilogue that we see in Modulo, but I'm waiting to see that reveal because I feel like that there is in some capacity that he's still out there persisting, doing something. So that love may still be there, or maybe it's now he's just organizing with anger. Yeah, I mean, I think that we find that like you can be really brought down by thinking about how you are this cog and persist in a capitalist system. I mean, my day job as a retail worker, it's like I exist in a world of contradictions, and yet I persist and lead with organizing and love, and that contradiction and being a part of this cog and machine doesn't hinder me. If anything, it motivates me to break the machine.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Wanted to add just a quick note also about the way that Edward gives up power at the end. He does it, and then he gives a monologue that essentially says, the solidarity I feel with my comrades is as powerful as the essentially magic power of alchemy. And it is, as the series keeps saying, an equivalent exchange. I will give up everything I have for the friends I fought alongside.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Did anybody else have a question for Christian before I move on to Gita? Oh, okay, right over here. Do you want to say it out loud? Do you want to come up to Mike? Yes, you can project. You go. Yes.
So I think central to a lot of shonen is that regardless, we're all watching it, we're enjoying the fight scene, but central to it is that there's a requirement of violence against a violent system, right? Like the villains are violent themselves, and the protagonists respond in kind, right? But we live in a society in which there's very much a monopoly on of violence. So as we see, ICE can be out here shooting people in the face, and all they have to do is say that, oh, this person turned their car toward me, and no amount of video evidence that shows to the contrary can contest that. So I guess my question is with all these protagonists, they're working within the system to try to dismantle it, and we're all here because you are working within a system to try to dismantle it. In trying to do this, how optimistic are we that we can do it through the traditional means when the traditional means have been becoming more and more tenuous? Woo!
Is this? Can I ask real quick? Is this a question of how optimistic am I? I mean, I think the way I think about it is someone who is deeply invested, I guess, in electoral politics and the traditional path, right? I wouldn't be here if I wasn't invested in you winning, right? Is that I guess in my head I see these as two different tracks that handle two different things. There's a series of things that will ultimately never be addressed by electoral politics and people who hold those seats. But the things that can be addressed by people who hold those seats, there are people who I don't want holding those reins of power. And I'd rather be someone who holds the same values and lives the same lives that we do and cares about others in those seats, rather than us doing the thing that we have to organize with each other, being out in the streets, protecting our neighbors, stuff like that will never be answered by a seat. I also don't want to then have to fight random millionaire guy who's taking checks from a super PAC, and then he's supposed to represent us, goes up there and it's I represent the people who gave me $200,000. So I feel it's I'm not optimistic about what this can do, but I am optimistic about the people and what they would do with that power.
Absolutely. Just to if you can't tell, I really have the Yuji optimism. I believe that it's not just about the electoral strategy. That's why I'm an organizer. You know, I was an organizer before I ever ran for office. I was, you know, like Emily Gallagher was an elected official that was like, you should run for office. and it's brought us together in this room right now. And so I do feel that you need to continue that strategy. Just because I'm entering the space, I'm going to be the answer and sort of the endpoint of the organizing efforts that are on outside. And to continue and carry that organizing effort inside Albany. And as Christian said, it is very much about the people that are ready to meet the challenge and understand that and are already fighting for it and are just as mad and upset and want to see that change just as much as you all do. And so that's why, you know, I do this, why, you know, I ate that finger.
Okay, now if you do have more questions for Christian, we'll come back around. I want to move on to Gita. So Gita, you have made great points about gender and class that play a very strong role in Sailor Moon. Do you believe those same aspects come into play with strong female characters in shonen anime, like Sakura in Naruto, or like Nami in One Piece, and so much more?
You know, I actually think of Nobara from JJK when I think about strong female characters in shonen. What I will say is this is something that mangaka have talked about before and anime directors have talked about before, specifically Ikuhara, who directed a couple of seasons of Sailor Moon and also directed Revolutionary Girl Utena, which is literally a show about revolutionizing the world with the main romance are lesbians. But Ikuhara said the reason why he wanted to have a girl-girl romance is because in a shoujo show, when you introduce a man into the plot, the man and the male romance ends up taking up most of the page, and like there's no room to have a conversation about anything else. And I think you can actually see that play out in shonen, which usually you name these specific characters because they're often the only girl in the show. And while they may start off with strong backgrounds, cool powers, etc., often they are sidelined in favor of the plot that's going on with the men in the show. Nobara is an interesting example because she appears initially to subvert this, and then ultimately she is what the comics industry is called fridging. She's essentially killed graphically, mostly to give pathos to a male character, and it's really she ends up being okay. It's anime, blah blah blah, but it is still like it was like really frustrating because Jujutsu Kaisen puts a lot of effort into creating a female character with an extremely compelling background. Again, the issue of class comes up with her specifically about wanting to move to Tokyo to escape marginalization in a small town where she is poor and she's discriminated against because she can see spirits, etc., etc. And it is unfortunate, I think, that shonen has not really gotten to a place as a genre where women don't get sidelined. And I think that's a shame. I think an antidote to this might be Chainsaw Man. Even if it is like the most perverted manga of all time. The thing is, he's a teenage boy and he just wants a woman to spit in his mouth. And that's also true about Fujimoto. Like, that's literally all he wants. It's a Quentin Tarantino problem of like, you are fetishizing these women that are really interesting, actually. But it is, I also think Chainsaw Man is like a bold new direction for shonen because it is explicitly and textually about hating America so much. And it's like very, very much about Fujimoto saying, I hate America, I hate America, I hate America, like on every page. It's incredible. But generally speaking, the examples of strong female characters that then get to be participants in the plot all the way through in shonen are rare. I think Riza Hawkeye is also a good example of a female character that does get that chance, but again, her motivation is all about supporting Mustang. And same with the mechanic that knocks people out with a wrench all the time. She just disappears from the plot about halfway through after having been a really essential part of being a part of those lives as the mechanic for his cyber arm. You know, it just... You introduce a girl, it becomes a plotline about love, or that girl stops existing, and it sucks.
Any comments towards Gita? Yes, right over here. Do you need the mic or do you want to project? Here you go. Thank you.
First off, I want to say I'm surprised you didn't bring up Princess Jellyfish because like that is all about like organizing to achieve a goal of like that character in the house, and then they're all living together, so they're a community. I just think that was
I could talk about every shoujo show I like so much, but I wanted to try to keep it basic for the noobs, essentially.
Reasonable.
Another thing I like about Princess Jellyfish is that these are all women who have been outcast from society. Like, they are weird freaks who think that they don't shower much, they're dirty, they have little, the facial hair and mustaches, but when they are in the room with each other, you can see how much value they have as people and how much love they feel for each other. No, I think you're totally right. If you're looking for places to start with shoujo, Princess Jellyfish is actually a really good place.
Yeah, but I have a question that's kind of like it's a combo question for Gita and Ian, because I thought of it during Ian's presentation, but it also like wraps into yours so well. Because as soon as I saw Yuji with that one guy who talked about how he likes women with big asses.
Toto.
What's his name?
Toto.
Toto. Yeah, I immediately was like, oh, it just made me think of Kwame Ture and how he said. Specifically, someone asked him, what is the woman's position in this movement? And he said prone. And I was like, honestly, I'm like, I don't know if he's just joking around because he does like to joke a lot or if he's serious. But the point is, making that joke is extremely misogynoirous. And then like, usually like, just like, being like, oh, I like a woman with a fat ass. And that guy being like, well, I can chill with you. It's like so crazy to me as a Black woman to watch these sorts of things like Kwame and Yuji, my two kings. I'm just kidding. But it just like, I'm constantly rooting for Black men. And specifically Black men. Everyone else, I'm also, kind of rooting for y'all. I'm rooting for Black people the most. But it feels like Black men will not mind taking a shit on my grave and then being like, and making money off of it. And so my question for you is, why does that not come to your mind as soon as you think socialist? The first people that come to your mind are men and not shoujo characters. Yeah. Why wouldn't it be the most marginalized of the anime characters, which is someone who's disabled, someone who's woman, who's queer, this, that, and the other? Why is that not the first thing that you think of? And then also, like, what you think about what I just said.
I want to make one note is that I really appreciate when Black women stand up and take ownership over their sexuality, essentially. Like, Megan Thee Stallion got the Yuji Itadori's English language voice actor to say on her album, I like women with big butts, like Grammy Award-winning artist Megan Thee Stallion. And that shit's dope. That rocks. More power to her. She can do whatever she wants, as far as I can say. But I do note that, like, a lot of men find solidarity in taking women down a peg. And it is always really frustrating. The one thing I always think about, though, when I think about that level of frustration is the kinds of friendship that my husband, who is sitting right there covered in all my stuff because I took it all off. My husband and his really solid and powerful male friendships that he has helped a lot of his male friends through really difficult times. And he is, to me, a model of really good solidarity between men without bringing women down. Part of that, though, is like he thinks women are beautiful. All women are beautiful, and he supports all women. And I think that if you want to lead with love, it has to not be disrespectful. Or at least you have to know that the woman you're talking about is okay with being talked about in that way. And I do find it a little frustrating when men find camaraderie with each other, and it comes with a side of objectification.
No, this really resonates with me. I, don't mean to play the card, but I have 2 daughters, and but this, that weighs on me. This is something that weighed on me even before. I didn't need to have, I'm not one of these guys. Like, I my eyes were open once I had children and they were female. And then now I realize you can't be disrespectful to women because, I never had a mother or anything, or never knew another woman, So I do think that there is a level of acceptable misogyny, even amongst people that, proclaim to be, challenging the system. And I do think that it is important, I know in my personal life that that's something that, I don't know Gita's husband, but I definitely have men in my circle that I rock with that's their sentiment as well. And I think that just being in an organizing space, and where centers that kind of thing, we have progressive stack in terms of who gets to speak and talk. I'm proud to say that my campaigns have both been managed by women, both of which are standing in this room. I think that you say I think Gege tries to get at that with Nobara, and I think even with Maki, and the way that we see how powerful she is, and even how there's a moment that she has just in her own space in this arc to really, transcend. Well, first she gets to have her revenge on all the men who fucking try to hold her down and tell her that she's a fucking special grade. And they try to tell her that she's worth nothing. And she shows them what's up. And she also gets this opportunity where she gets to evolve and reach the pinnacle of what we're shown in Jujutsu Kaisen as far as the people who are without cursed energy and what they're able to do. And she becomes that. And you see that she stands up to all the most powerful villain in the series, and she holds her own. And so I think that, Gege falls short in the sense of, with the little bro interaction with Toto, but I guess in the sense that there is not necessarily, I could say there's a love and appreciation that, that it's about an idol that you would do anything for, and so it is not so much, I think, about, I'm trying to clean up Gege. It's not so much about, that's kind of an objectification, but I think the love that usually shows, and it's about the love that they share for women.
Wow, thank you. Does anybody else I see a question over here. Yeah, come on up. If you want to project and just ask your question to the crowd, or you can just come to the mic over here. You got this? Go for it.
Yes.
And it's he doesn't think he's going to get with her. He knows he's just a fan. He knows he's just a fan, and he knows that she doesn't know who he is.
Yes.
But she's I get my strength from loving a beautiful woman.
Yes.
Really, even the frame was her, because I remember they showed the idol and then Toto side by side, literally doing the same move.
Yeah.
It was just really.
Yeah. Leading with love.
Yes.
Leading with love.
And who is Toto's teacher also? I think that's kind of even where he gets the line, it doesn't come from a man, it comes from, his teacher and mentor, what kind of woman do you like? And that's, so it is a man that is taught by women, that loves women, that gets his motivation from women and will die for them.
That's right.
All right, so now I have my question for Ian. Do you feel all shonen anime share similar socialist values?
Sadly, no. As I kind of talked about in that presentation, much of the protagonists of many of the shonen, even if there's an idea of camaraderie and villains that become allies, there still is a moment of the man who can do it all, the one who's there to save the day. I alone can save. It sounds very Trumpian. And so there is this element that, the Deus Ex Machina situations of the power up and I'm able to defeat the villain. And so honestly, there's not really a censoring of that. And even, so I'm proud to say that JJK really holds that down to the end. For everyone who's read all the manga, you see that it's solidarity that wins the day. Love and solidarity that wins the day over barbarism and capitalism.
Anyone has a question for Ian or about the JJK presentation? All right, well, I'm gonna because we have a little bit more time. Yeah, do you see somebody? Yeah. You have a question? Let's do it.
It's more or less a general question, but in regards to a lot of people being into shonen stuff and the transition I think a lot of people are making right now to being more into One Piece, and the transition also, like early on, a lot of people were Naruto fans. Do you feel like there might be a connection in regards to, I think, a lot of male ideology for wanting to stick to what they learned from Naruto, and maybe a connection in regards to like maybe red pill conservative ideology and only caring about self-preservation and making yourself better, and then that transition where people go from Naruto loving and then realize they like One Piece and start to become more community-based and more about people?
I hope so. That's the track I hope. I hope it's the Naruto to the One Piece track, you know, from fascists to socialists. You know, I'm hopeful. You know, the thing is, honestly, I feel like this kind of thing and having this kind of discussion and also centering it in socialism and the politics that hopefully everyone who's in this room believes. Hope that you didn't come here to like rage bait, but no one seems to. But I think that this is the kind of thing that we need to do and just kind of put that message out there. And there's so much of the right and the fascists out there that have appropriated anime and manga imagery as part of their imagery and just part of the movement. And part of it is because it looks fucking cool, like what we know. But also, I think that they do draw from some of the kind of, you know, narratives and kind of ideology that you can take away from that. And I think it's important that what we are doing and centering the world that we are fighting for and organizing for and believe in, and the kind of works that inspire us and uplifting that and making those connections.
I want to add also that, like, something that hasn't really been talked about here is haven't talked about here yet is the conditions under which manga and anime are made. Those artists are suffering. Like, they are suffering so much. People die on their work tables drawing manga. They die animating cells. In one case, there's MAPPA is on every project, and they are overworking everything. A good rule of thumb I have to think about anything where you wonder, I can't believe, how did they do that? Why does it look so perfect? The answer is human blood. Blood, sweat, and tears. So not only that, but if you look at the merchandising around shonen, especially something like Naruto, I mean, I own a ton of bootleg anime merch, I'm not gonna lie, but it's an incredibly capitalist, profit-driven industry. And I think you can be an anime fan and you might go one of two directions. You can be like a mainstream anime fan that tells my colleagues to go kill themselves on Twitter, and who is deeply invested in what's the best current show, what's the most successful current show. Or you can be someone who's interested in art. And that might lead you from Naruto to One Piece, to Chainsaw Man, to things that are more complex and more intellectually engaging and often have better pro-social messaging. I mean, I think it's important to think about anime as something that is created by people who need better labor rights for themselves, and also as an art form that can be interpreted. My husband and I watched all of Attack on Titan pretty recently because Eric, who helped set up this event, texted me one day. It was like, at one point, it becomes explicitly about the Jews. And I said to myself, well, I don't know what that means, but I gotta find out. And he was right in a way that's really shocking. But it is important then to not be that kind of first fan who creates the kind of labor conditions that causes people to physically injure themselves or become sick while making anime. Don't just look at it as a commodity. Remember that it is an art form. And then you are able to look at kind of right-wing texts like Attack on Titan and not fall victim to the propaganda that's within it.
Yeah, I guess I feel like as people who are heavily online, I always think of the meme where it's like, we're Jujutsu Kaisen fans, we can't read. Or like, I find, there, even with like this transition from Naruto to One Piece, I'm glad that there is anime that I think has more inherently and inbuilt socialist, like community-based themes. At the same time, there's things like Attack on Titan or Ranking of Kings that have like almost illicit like pro-colonialism, or even then there are people who watch One Piece and side with the world government. There are people who consider themselves Jaegerist. Huge Garp and Colby fans, right? Like it's ultimately, sure, people will watch these things and they won't get the right messaging out of it, or even the messaging of so much.
I've seen people tell me that Mob Psycho 100 is not about being autistic. Like, I just don't know how that works. How could you watch that and come to that conclusion?
Yeah. And so it's like, with it being a commodity, I guess, like, on the one hand, I'm excited that there are these more, like, people are having these conversations, and as it becomes more popular, smarter people get to look at these things and analyze it and talk about it. On the other hand, there's always going to be someone who's like, Eren Yeager was right. And we
dark
live
sentence.
Under
no circumstances do you have to commit genocide. Just don't. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, and so I don't know. It's one of the things that like, I guess I'm not as optimistic, but I'm glad that the material is good and that the material is there. And even with things that are like Chainsaw Man, which is incredibly gooned out, has all of its anti-America themes, and like when you get to the I don't know, like, are you reading it?
I'm not caught up. I've seen the panels that you are probably about to reference, where the Statue of Liberty grabs an AK-47.
There's also Michigan, and what else do we have there? Getting on California wrapped into this.
Yeah, my God. Like
America's a mess.
America has made a deal with the gun devil, which is not a statement about real life. That's a statement about Chainsaw Man.
Though that gun devil is like, that's our gun. That's our devil
That's
right
our
there.
guy.
That's
You know,
our
folks,
devil here in America.
We love him, gun devil. We love him, folks, don't we? We've made the best contract with the gun devil, you guys.
So I guess overall it's like I'm optimistic, but in the same light, Japan was a colonial imperialist place that really is still very conservative, just elected a very conservative prime minister. And so it's like we're still getting art out of a place that, while we have these, more socialist themes, there are also a lot of right-leaning stuff.
In the history of how anime as an industry became what it is now, what is also really interesting to know is that a lot of the people that are the creators of some of the most influential anime of all time, including Miyazaki from Studio Ghibli, they are just all wounded socialists. After a leader of the Japanese Socialist Party was murdered on television, it was very difficult to be a socialist in public in Japan. A lot of those people got swept to the dregs of society, and writing perverted comic books is one of the places where you end up. So it's not surprising that these themes are here, but it's because it has to be a subculture.
I'm also proud to say that Fujimoto does not let the Japanese government off. They get dragged too.
I like that.
The governments are failing.
Before we move on, I see a question right over here. Yes.
Yeah. My question is, over the last year or two, Freerun as an anime has grown in significant popularity. I got a Freerun tattoo on my arm. I know it got snubbed for Anime of the Year by Solo Leveling. Do y'all think that the popularity of an anime like that although violence still exists in the narrative, it doesn't center violence? Do y'all think that reflects shifting political values in any sort of way, or?
Freerun is one of my favorite shows and one of my favorite manga. I've read it. Unfortunately, even though it doesn't center violence, fascists have been able to use Freerun out of context in ways that are stochastically violent or explicitly prejudiced. Essentially, Freerun is a story about an elf, Freerun, who realizes that she lives so long, she kind of doesn't really empathize well with other people, and she's trying to make that change in her life. It's also a world where The ultimate villains exist are people that are demons. They look exactly like you, but you can't trust them. They always lie, including when they're trying to get your emotions worked up. To me, as someone who's on the spectrum, that felt like a very like autistic narrative to me. Like that's about Freerin can understand that these people are manipulative because she doesn't respond to lies in the same way as her colleagues. But a lot of fascists have seen that and said, there's a class of people that you can always kill. And that is that to them is the message of Freerin. I think the lesson of Freerin to me is that no matter how empathetic a story can be, it can always be co-opted, unfortunately.
I don't even know if I can add anything onto that because that was the thing I was going to address. Is like it's weird. It's for such a nicely paced, like thoughtful thing about like your relationships and how they've all. If you had all this time, the demon narrative and the way that people are using it is really wild. And so it's like I don't know if it's out of that realm of violence.
Yeah, like you can. By endorsing fascist violence, you are doing a violent act, and like that, the way that Freerin is used to specifically shout down specifically Black anime fans, like it is images from Freerin are used to harass Black anime fans. It is not enough to ruin the manga for me or ruin the anime for me, but it is really, really, really frustrating to watch people use an art form that has brought me so much strength and use it to dehumanize other people.
Stop the co-op.
We have time for just one more question. Does anybody have a question that hasn't? Oh, somebody's getting pointed out. Anybody? Nope. Okay. Oh, right over here. Lucky one here.
So Christian touched upon transformative justice, and Gita touched upon maybe being in solidarity with people we don't agree with. So I guess I just wanted to pick everyone's brains about like lessons from anime about, I guess, ideological purity and kind of the cautions it has for us about who we're in solidarity with, but also kind of these positive messages it has where it's like people can be redeemed. So I don't know. I just wanted to bring back around to that because I think you guys probably have some great thoughts about that.
Okay, I immediately always have something to say. I'm sorry. I'm a yapper. The first thing that came to mind actually was Neon Genesis Evangelion. A great show that I love and has influenced me incredibly deeply, but it is essentially about a failing government agency that is trying desperately to save the world, but is not doing a very good job, including by enlisting child soldiers, which is just like child soldiers who are haunted by the ghosts of their moms and giant robots. It's just complicated. But it is a show where the psychology of the characters is really important. And over the course of the show, you learn that everyone's dealing with their own shit so intensely with no outlet for that they cannot actually find solidarity with each other. And that ends up being like where the show leaves you in a really cynical moment is like the villain wins, but the person he uses to fill out his plan is not sympathetic to him. There is no ability to feel empathy with others. And the only way that these people who can't just experience love in life are able to touch and be with each other and find community is by dissolving the literal physical boundaries between people so that we all become Tang. And I think that is like, that's what no ideology does to a motherfucker. Like, it is really a demonstration of if you can't let your shit go, if you can't have solidarity with other people, you will accomplish nothing.
Yeah, that is so important because we see this right now where there's people who, proclaiming mantles of being, the legacy of the Black Panther Party, and then just saying just out of pocket shit. Like talking about like not standing in solidarity with our immigrant brothers and sisters, and not acknowledging the fucking history of the Black Panther Party of being internationalists. People that from the beginning and the inception of this party, that was the foundation of this ideology. And so it is, like Gita says, very important to be rooted in something. And I think to tie it back to the presentation, Yuji doesn't ever stray from that, that ideology. He never takes on the perspectives of the Jiu-Jitsu society. He never succumbs to this idea that he is somehow some genius and that it's his time to enforce some sort of will. He persists and continues to lead with love, and he brings people in who have different motivations and different ideology, but ultimately they fall in line and they fall for love.
Yeah. I guess continuing with like Full Metal Alchemist and the idea of like ideological purity, I think the character there's a character named Yuki who kind of just like sucks. He was in the military. He was stealing resources. There's a whole little like side arc where the main character gives the deed of that like mine back to the community, and he gets kicked out. And when I think about like messages about ideological purity, it's like the only moment in which he finally redeems himself is after he spends like 2 years living with the people that he exploited. And even while he was there, he was like, I'm not like you. I'm not like you slum dwellers. It's like, you're in the slums. like you're here. You don't have, like, you're eating our food. And so, yeah. And so I feel like with the general message of Full Metal Alchemist, like you touched on, where it's like, I'm giving up this power because the community around me, this is the exchange I'm making. I don't need this individually if I have these people, is that, I guess, like when you look at today, who holds power, and the way that like the only way that these narratives get to persist, whether it's about like people who are incredibly racist or are incredibly xenophobic, is that they give a disproportionate amount of power to a minority of people, and they get to manipulate that. And so I do think that, like, if I'm going to take any message away from anime, it's that like the people who have that, you have to have that power kind of taken away. I think there's this very funny this Northern Lion clip actually, where he's like, oh no, like the only people who know people in the city, they don't know real life. They're just having to be around other people who are from different places all the time in different communities and different. It's only me who lives by myself in the middle of the woods. I know what the real world is like. No one who has to live amongst a bunch of other people of different classes and backgrounds. It's like, that's what's necessary. And I think that's kind of like, I take that from Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah, the thing about Evangelion is that they are a government agency that is devoted to saving the world, but everyone thinks of themselves as an individual. Mm-hmm. They do not think of themselves as a team. They are, in fact, constantly fighting each other and trying to backstab each other for more power. Up until the final moments of the show where nothing fucking matters anymore, they're still assassinating spies and shit, and they can't come together. And I appreciate that as sort of a inverse side, the evil version of what happens in FMA, where at the end of the day, even someone like Yuki, who is incredibly fucking selfish, he can understand, I am an individual, yes, but I'm part of a community.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for attending the first anime and socialism event. I also want to thank, yes. I also want to thank our special guests. We have Christian, who started first, and then we have Gita, and then Ian, our future assemblyman of 56th District. I also want to thank the Wonderville venue, our volunteers, and all of our new friends in attendance today. This event really wouldn't have been possible without all of you here, and I've said that at the top of this show. But if this event did anything, I hope it allowed you to think very differently about the view on anime and the world around you. And I hope that it helps you to want to impact your community more positively. And of course, we hope that this event inspired you to donate and to canvas. And on the note of canvas, I want to share a few words here with our team from the Huntley team over here.
Hey, everybody. My name is Ronit, she, her. I am the campaign manager for this campaign. And thank you. Let me just ask you all, who wants to freeze the rent? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to have free childcare, free CUNY and SUNY?
That's right.
Who wants to get ICE out of NYC?
ICE out.
All right. In order to do all these things, we need to send Ian to Albany. So, who wants to send Ian to Albany? Amazing. So you all have come here as part of the Huntley x Huntley anime. This is the first episode. Okay? You all are at the first episode, but we have a lot more episodes until we get to the finale of getting him into Albany, right? Maybe not as many episodes as One Piece, but we have a long way to go. So I hope you all come back for episode 2, which is canvassing. We are doing our canvas launch next Saturday, a week from today. It's going to start in Herbert von King Park. And we need y'all to come out, and you get this amazing shirt. So if you sign up to Canvas, you don't have to come out to this particular Canvas, but sign up anyway, and you'll get emails about upcoming events, and you'll get this shirt that you can go canvas in. We have only had 4 signups, and we have 20 shirts. So
Come on.
I'm gonna give you all a moment right now of shame.
Exclusive
You
merch.
can all, yeah. You get, and while you all are scanning this QR code, we can pass this around, and it's also on your little sheet, this like tiny sheet that you got. While we're doing that, let's call up the people that did sign up to Canvas. You can come get a shirt. We have a Stacy.
You get a shirt.
Yeah, Stacy. Do we have a Chris? Come.
You get a shirt.
Get over here. So Chris, all right. Do we have an Afia? We have an Afia.
Come on down.
All right.
Yeah.
What about a Frank? Do we got a Frank? A Frank.
Come on.
All right. Okay, who has signed up now in the time we've been talking? I know. Come on Canvas. You know what? I know this is a room of anime nerds. Maybe some of you are a little shy. You don't want to go out, talk to random people. But as we have learned with the power of solidarity and friendship, you can do anything. You can even knock on somebody's door and tell them about this campaign.
Just make a binding vow that you will have the courage to answer every moment, and you'll be able to do this. Yes.
All right. Who else is going to come out on Canvas? Don't you want? All right. Here you go. We got one over here. One over there. All right.
Yeah.
Just come on up here. You can get a shirt. I know you're coming. You're going to field lead. Come over here. Yes. Well, I know. I will make you sign up because I have your phone number. Anybody else? That guy right there. All right. Here we go. Can we get 2 more canvassers? We need all of us in this together to actually make it happen. Like, we're gonna have a lot more fun events, but we also gotta hit the doors.
You don't want to have that FOMO when people start posting those fit pics and those tees.
Yeah. Also, I made a mistake. The launch is in 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from today, not a week from today.
What would Usagi do? She would stand up and fight for someone she doesn't know. That's what she would do.
Yes.
Yeah. You're gonna stand up and knock on somebody's door that you don't know.
Be the Yuji of the moment.
Your neighbor, yeah. Okay, let's get 2 more people. Can we get 2 more people that are gonna canvas at some point? You don't have to come to the launch, just some point between now and June. I know there's 2 more people out in the audience. Who can raise their hand?
Come
I see you.
on.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. And one more. Woo!
Yeah. We don't have to stop at 2. Come on now.
Look at these shirts. Come
This is a
on. This is
dope-ass
one of a
shirt.
kind. The coolest.
I mean, I was taking fit pics last night. You know, there was some JoJo, how will we know who the stand user is, you know?
All right. Well, thank you.
Stand user could be anyone.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to see you out on the field. It's going to be cold, but the warmth of friendship and solidarity will warm our hearts.
Yes.
Now, please, if I can leave you all with one sentiment. I got to be cheesy. I love doing this. Something that truly speaks to this event today. From the King of the Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy. If you don't take risks, you can't create a future. And I know that sounds super cheesy, but I think everything that we've been talking about today are these amazing fictional characters that take massive risks for people that they don't know or people that they love. And so I think that the 2 words that matter most here, maybe 3, but it's solidarity, love, and friendship. And I think I just want to thank you all again for being here. And the conversation does not stop here. We're all going to hang out. You can go to the Wonderville bar as well. And just keep talking, keep connecting. And thank you again for being here, and Happy New Year. Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you.